Dear viewers and listeners of Khabar Hub and Radio Candid, Namaste and good afternoon. Welcome to a very special interview with Dr. Satoru Nagao. Dr. Satoru Nagao is a non-resident fellow at Hudson Institute. Previously, he worked as visiting fellow at the same institute. He has worked with several reputed organizations such as Institute for Future Engineering, Gakushūin University, Japan Forum for Strategic Studies, Security and Strategy Research Institute for Japan, Institute of National Security Studies Sri Lanka, Indian Military Review, Center for Strategic and International Studies of US, Tokyo Foundation, and the Ocean Policy Research Foundation in Tokyo. He was a postdoctoral fellow at the Research Institute for Oriental Cultures at Gakushūin University and worked as lecturer at the same university. And he has also worked at Aoyama Gakuin University and Komazawa University. He was also a security analyst at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and a first lieutenant of the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force. Dr. Nagao has authored numerous books and articles at reputed journals and newspapers. Today we'll be talking on Indo-Pacific strategy and Indo-Pacific affairs with Dr. Nagao. Dr. Nagao, welcome to our show. Our first question for today is, Prime Minister Suga's one-year tenure was marred by a devastating pandemic response and rapidly dwindling public support according to the polls. With Prime Minister Suga stepping down, the race of the new Japanese Prime Minister is underway. What should be the main focus of the upcoming Prime Minister? How do you envision the future of the Indo-Pacific alliance under the new Prime Minister?
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for asking this question. According to the survey of the NHK is Japan's BBC. The people replied what kind of topic should be the priority. So first one is how to deal with the COVID-19. Secondly, how to recover the economy. And security is the third one. But when we check the percentage, the COVID-19 got 44%, and economic recovery got 33%. But security or diplomacy got only 8%. That's the situation in Japan. So, yes, the candidate of the successor of the Prime Minister Suga is talking about national security a lot. That's true. But at the same time, there are people focusing on more the COVID-19 or economy. That's true. So, under such kind of situation, the Indo-Pacific is not a controversial topic in this election. Because Indo-Pacific is a big picture of the national security. Even if the national security itself is not the main topic of the election, Indo-Pacific is a more specific part of the national security. So they did not talk about this indeed, but unfortunately. But because of this, I'm sure to say Japan will not change the discourse. This is long-term strategy and fixed strategy. So no need to worry about the future of the Indo-Pacific in this case.
In response to the security threat in the region, Prime Minister Abe has pledged to revise Japan's pacifist constitution, forming a new defense strategy enabling Japan to safeguard its interest against these threats in the region. In your view, did Prime Minister Suga adhere to similar ambitions and strategies? How should the next Prime Minister confront such issues?
Yes, Japan say our policy is a pacifism-based policy. But you know, the NISA, NII, the Nepal think tank in the Nepal, indeed you are the director, I think, invited Professor Narushige Michishita, the GRIPS, professor of the GRIPS in Tokyo. He explained the interesting part of the Japan's pacifism. Japan's pacifism is not a pacifism, he said. Japan's pacifism is one kind of isolationism. Do not intervene the situation in foreign countries, especially the security area. That is Japan's traditional pacifism after the World War II. So now, Indo-Pacific strategy, Quad, how to deal with China, or how to deal with security in the world, or the United Nations peacekeeping operation, etc., etc. Japan has joined these kind of activities. This means that Japan's pacifism has already changed. But real situation has changed, but the constitution itself has not changed. That's why still the people talk about how to amend the constitution. Especially when we check the sentence was Article 9 in the current Japan's constitution. This law prohibits to possess the military power. Despite Japan has a self-defense force. So Japanese government changed the interpretation, and they said this is legal. Self-defense force is legal because the purpose is only self-defense. But still, this sentence in the constitution is not natural to understand the self-defense force is legal. So that's why for the honor of the members of the self-defense force, officers and soldiers, the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe tried to amend the constitution. But still, the half of the Japanese, no, not half, indeed, 30%, 40%, 30%, Japanese public opinion has divided. 30% support to amendments, another 30% opposed to amendments, and 40% still undecided. So, under such kind of situation, any prime minister hasn't succeeded to change the constitution. Will it happen? Indeed, I don't know. But the real situation will change. Anyone can sure. So that is the current situation.
At a time when Beijing's control over disputed South China Sea is growing and the path to resolution narrows, how difficult will it be for the United States, Japan, and the regional partners to work together to bolster the rule-based order in South China Sea?
In the South China Sea, because there is a power vacuum, China can take it. That is the situation. So how to deter, to create a power vacuum is needed. So in this case, the military capability is needed. But the view from the military capability, in the rise, US circle, United States is far stronger than others. So United States must take the charge in this region. However, the recent situation is not so easy to depend on the United States. Because, for example, the CIPRI. CIPRI is a think tank in Sweden. They have the good database. And this database, military expenditure database, clearly indicate that from the 2011 to 2020, the military expenditure of the United States declined 10%. But during the same period, the military expenditure of China increased 76%. So minus 10 versus 76%. Still, US military expenditure is far bigger than China. But this is a current situation. Another data also indicate the same tendency. For example, the 2002 from 2000 to 2090, how many submarines the US or China built and deployed. In this case, US deployed 21st, but China deployed 54. The view from the capability of the submarine, size is big, the power is nuclear. The US submarine is stronger than China's one. So that is the reason the number is the number, not directly related with the capability. But when these military show their show their presence in the peacetime. It is not easy to sink them. That is the reason number is powerful. They can visit more ports. They can show the more presence. And so China can show their influence in many parts of the world by using the number of their military forces. So under such kind of situation, only dependent only for the United States is not the option. U.S. allies must cooperate with the United States and share burden. And that is the reason how to share the burden is very important. Currently, network-based alliance system is developing. Traditionally, the U.S. lead security system depend on the bilateral alliance between U.S. and Japan, U.S. and Philippines, U.S. and South Korea, U.S. and Australia, something like that. In this case, all information go to the United States, and all U.S. allies depend on the U.S., and the U.S. decide and U.S. lead it. In this case, Japan and Australia is not ally and do not cooperate. Japan and South Korea do not ally and do not cooperate. Japan and Philippines also. Only the US got all initiative. But this is traditional system, and this system is not enough to deter China's activity. Now network-based system is developing. That is how to cooperate. Japan cooperate with the Philippines, Japan cooperate with Australia, Japan cooperate with South Korea, Japan cooperate with Thailand and the other US allies. Why? Because this is a new type of the system, not hub and spoke, network-based alliance system. US allies and US allies cooperate each other and share the security burden US took traditionally. So, cooperate with the US and cooperate with other US allies. This system will work in the South China Sea. That is how to cooperate in the South China Sea.
What role can India play to support Japan in the South China Sea, as it is equally significant for the security of the Indian Ocean? Has India's commitment towards the preservation of the South China Sea and Indo-Pacific as a whole increasing recently?
That is a good question. Yeah, my PhD thesis was India's military strategy, and the first one in Japan. Indeed, when we check China's pattern of the territorial expansion, indicate how to deal with China. In the South China Sea, when China finds the power vacuum, they try to take it. And this power vacuum created by the changing military balance. For example, in 1950s, when France withdrew from Indochina, including Vietnam and Cambodia, in this region, China took half of the Paracel Island. In 1970s, when United States withdrew from Vietnam, China took another half of Paracel Island. In 1980s, when the Soviet Union reduced their troops in Vietnam, China took the sixth feature of the Spratly Island in South China Sea. And in 1990s, when US withdrew from Philippines, China took Mischief Reef in the South China Sea. Every time when the military balance has changed and there is a power vacuum they find, China took it. That is China's pattern of territorial expansion. So compare with Russia, China is thief. Russia is burglar, but China is thief. Steal it. That is the pattern. So, how to deal with China? In this case, maintain military balance. Do not create power vacuum. That is the answer. So, how to maintain military balance? China's defense budget is increasing very rapidly. I have already indicated some number comparison between US and China as the answer of the last question. Yes, China is increasing their military expenditure and the military balance is changing and it is more easy to create the power vacuum. That's a problem. So how to deal with it? In this case, one of the solutions is we should divide their defense budget multi-purpose, multi-direction. For example, if Japan and India cooperate, what happens? You from China, they have two different enemies. Chinese defense budget need to deal with Japan and India at the same time, East and South at the same time. So China need to devise some budget. But if they use a budget against Japan, they cannot use the same budget against India, and vice versa. So if Japan and India cooperate, these two countries can divide China's defense budget, and it is more easier to maintain military balance. That is first one. And second one is exist. China is finding the power vacuum in the Indian Ocean too. In this case, if India takes charge the security in the Indian Ocean as a security provider, Japan, US, or other countries concentrate their warships, budget, other resources to the Pacific side. So in this case, it is more easier to maintain military balance against China. So India takes charge in the Indian Ocean is another role of the cooperation. And third one, indeed, China is expanding their territory, especially against Southeast Asia. So this is the main front. When we check the Indo-Pacific, where is the center? Southeast Asia, geographically. So how to support Southeast Asia is how to deal with China. In this case, Japan supports Southeast Asia, but India has already supported Southeast Asia too. For example, the Air Force of Malaysia, trained by Indian Air Force. They possess MiG-29, Sukhoi-30, both are Russian-made fighter jets. But crew, both pilot and ground crew, trained by India. Vietnam also receives training from India. Vietnam established Kilo-class submarines. This is first submarine fleet for Vietnam, 6 Kilo-class submarine. They can find the cruise missile against Hainan Island of China. By cruise missile name of the cruise missile is Crab missile. So this is very precious and important force. But advanced training of this submarine is trained by India. And Vietnam used MiG-21 and Sukhoi-30. These fighter jet crew are trained by India. So indeed, India's role is very important. Singapore uses a training field in India. They do not possess Russian-made weapons, but they use a training field in India. Or the Philippines will import BrahMos missile from India. And Indonesia, the maintenance of the Sukhoi-30 jet is Indonesian asked India to do that. So, view from such kind of situation, the military training role or maintenance role in Southeast Asia, it depends on India. India has done well. Of course, Japan, traditionally, Japan is the main supporter for Southeast Asia. But in the military field, because of the Japan's pacifism, Japan's role is quite limited for a long time. Now, Japan tried to start the project. And so Japan tried to intervene in this field, but still, this is the beginning level. Japan donated some patrol ships to Vietnam, Malaysia. That's true. Joint exercises happen between Japan and the Southeast Asia country. And that's true. But in this case, Japan and India should cooperate to support Southeast Asia countries to maintain military balance with China. Japan, India, Southeast Asia should cooperate and make China's budget multi-direction. That's why Japan needs India's support in cooperation with India, and that is very vital to deal with China.
Dr. Nagao, you just talked about joint military exercises. So let's talk about it. The US has recently launched a large scale all domain military exercise in the Indo Pacific region with Britain, Australia, and Japan. While the Chinese military training drills are also being carried out in parts of South China Sea. How do you perceive the current situation in South China Sea pertaining to such developments?
Interesting situation. Uh, because yeah, you have already mentioned about Britain, indeed France, Germany, and Netherlands, and Canada already dispatch warships to the Indo-Pacific. So simply it's said the U.S. allies are trying to reply the call from the United States, I believe. And I have already explained the difference of the hub and spoke system and the network-based system. Hub and spoke rely on the bilateral relation and depend on the US only. But the network system is cooperation between US allies and creates a network of the cooperation, bilateral, trilateral, quadrilateral, and more multilateral. So this US circle uh, is depend on this network-based security system. If the US allies in Europe, US allies in Europe, Canada is not Europe, but US allies, come to the Indo-Pacific and cooperate with US allies in Asia, Indo-Pacific, Japan, Australia, the Philippines, Thailand, and of course, new partners, India. This network-based system can be grow. And indeed, image of the China is rising, US is declining. Such kind of image creates some kind of uh, the power vacuum. China will believe China can take it. So to prevent such kind of system, US circle network-based security system needs rising power like India, Southeast Asia. So when the US circle gathered in the Indo-Pacific, US circle including the European ally, the Canada, and the allies in Asia and new partners. This network, power with this network-based security system can maintain their power and can deal with rising China. And indeed, this is very important because indeed, China has only one former ally, which is North Korea. But the US circle has 52 allies, former allies in this case, including Taiwan, and with new partner. So indeed, US circle is very big. If these allies gathered in one place and coordinate well, the possibility of the victory of the United States in the US-China competition will grow and promised. Additionally, I need to add one explanation. Indeed, the number of the allies is very important. The last three competition, which is World War I, World War II, and the US-Soviet Cold War, number is very important. The World War I, the 4 countries fight with nearly 30 countries. I think 30 maybe. And in the World War II, 52 versus 16, like something like that. I forget the same. And in the Cold War, the 54 versus 26, something like that. So if the US circle consists by the 52 allies with new partners, and China has only one, it is easy to expect which side will win. So number of allies and the coordination of the allies and partners is very important factor to which side will win the competition. So that is the reason the US circle is gathering in South China Sea, and this move is coordinated. That is very important message. US side try to use their advantage.
Dr. Nagao, Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has succeeded in building a strong alliance with the member of the Quad for the containment of rising China. Has Prime Minister Suga been able to foster the relationship among these member countries amid pandemics? How do you compare their role in this issue?
Japan was the pioneer of the Quad and the Indo-Pacific. That's true. And Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's address in the Indian Parliament in 2007 indicates the two concepts, Quad and the Indo-Pacific. Even if he did not use the word Quad or Indo-Pacific in his address. So that is the reason this idea is Japan-led idea. But at the same time, the view from the size of power and the view from the military policy, this concept depends on the US. That is also the fact. So US leadership is needed. But US leadership depends on the will and capability. So view from the will, of course, US has a will to compete with China and win the competition. That's true. And view from the capability, still US is strongest country in the world. That's true. But at the same time, sometimes the image has changed, especially the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Just after the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan, the Afghanistan government, U.S. supported, has collapsed at a very fast pace, and U.S. hasn't expected such kind of rapid situation. So that is the reason currently many people doubt the skill of the Biden administrations. Especially the diplomatic skill. That under such kind of situation, even if the U.S. has a will and U.S. has a capability, it looks like China or Russia can exploit the situation to expand their territory. So under such kind of situation, the role of ally is very important. Especially the regional country, Japan should take some charge to supporting Taiwan or maintain the military balance in South China Sea and try to recover the image of the US side. That's true. Of course, why US withdraw from Afghanistan, the US want to relocate their resources from the Afghanistan to the Indo-Pacific to deal with China. But at the same time, view from the amount of the resources, the withdrawal from Afghanistan is useful. But at the same time, if the image has spread, US abandoned Afghanistan, which is a former ally of the United States, that is not a good situation of the United States to strengthen allies. So in this case, Japan should support the Southeast Asian country, especially US side countries, or the coordinate with other partners like India and Australia, and try to fill the gap of the image. So your question is new prime minister. Current prime minister is Suga, and of course Suga try to beat another prime minister Abe. And next prime minister, Japanese prime minister, who will be the prime minister is not decided yet, but it is one kind of the promise or fixed the next prime minister will do the same. And you want to talk about pandemic? Okay. How to deal with pandemic? How to deal with how to maintain the powerful image of the U.S. side is a little similar issue. Delivering the vaccine of the COVID-19 to the many countries. It's one kind of the policy to strengthen the U.S. side. So amid the pandemic, this is a very priority issue in many countries, including Japan. So Japan donates vaccine to the Taiwan, Vietnam, or other US side countries now. And US also try to, and by using a Quad framework, Japan, 4 countries, so Japan, US, Australia, India coordinate to prepare the vaccines. And other areas, how to maintain the oil prices, how to improve the supply chain, which do not depend on China, or how to maintain economical development, or how to recover the economical development, or how to supply the energy to the US side countries. All of these things depend on the US and its allies in the US side. So Japan should take charge if some things the US cannot do, or some things the US fails, and we need to recover the image of the US side.
What hopes does Japan have for the upcoming first in-person Quad summit that is taking place on 24th September in Washington, D.C.? What does it anticipate to achieve out of the meet?
On surface, maybe the statement of the Quad summit will not publish the military-related cooperation. But I have already told Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was the pioneer. Originally, this Quad has a military aspect, I think, and still, this military aspect is very important. Why? Why the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe introduced this idea, Quad and Indo-Pacific? Of course, Indo-Pacific is needed because the Pacific side and Indian Ocean side developed at the same time. Pacific side is developing economically, and the Indian Ocean side developing economically, but this is not developing only the economically. Because when economy is rise, they can get the budget, and they can use the budget for military. And so, in the past, when the European country is the only center of the world, so this means that powerful, both military and economically. If war has happened in Europe, this influence spread to the world, and people call this is world war. So, but because of the Indo-Pacific region, it's developing very fast. This region is also important in the world politics now, as one of the center of the world politics. If something has happened in this region, it will spread the influence to the world, like Europe. Like, of course, Europe is also important now, but Indo-Pacific is rising. In this case, new concept is needed, including both Pacific and Indian Ocean. That's the Indo-Pacific. But secondly, this Indo-Pacific is very important and should combine with the Quad. Why? Because Prime Minister Shinzo Abe do not want that this Indo-Pacific will be the China-dominated region. China-dominated region, how to deal with it? That is the reason there is a Quad. Quad is a group of the great powers, except China, in the Indo-Pacific. So, Quad and Indo-Pacific is one set. Quad maintains the power balance in the Indo-Pacific against China. And in this case, how to include India is a topic, because indeed, when we talk about the Indo-Pacific, indeed, if India is outside of the Indo-Pacific, we do not need to say Indo-Pacific, just Pacific. Is Asia-Pacific is enough. We do not need to say Indo-Pacific if we do not need India. Quad is same. Why Quad is important? Because of India. If the US and Australia and Japan cooperate trilaterally, Japan and Australia is US allies. So there are many chances to cooperate. We do not need to call this concept as a Quad. So Quad and Indo-Pacific, both concepts indicate that how important India is. These are the original idea of the Quad. So how to maintain the power balance with China is a very important topic originally. So when the four leaders gathered in Washington talk about cooperation of the Quad, automatically this Quad is how to deal with China, how to deal with China's influence. But despite this, when we check the joint statement or something information, public information from the Quad, they do not mention about military cooperation so much. And instead of this, for example, the first summit of the Quad has happened in the last March this year. They established three working group. First one is how to supply the COVID-19 vaccine is first working group. Second one is how to technological cooperation, especially related with supply chain. And third one is climate change. These three working groups do not directly related with military cooperation. Why? One of the reasons is India. Because compared with other three countries, India shares land border with China. If China decides to attack Quad at the same time, four countries at the same time, which country will be the first target? India could be the first target because there is a land border. China provoked Japan and Australia or United States, but they need to cross the sea first. But in case of India, it is more easy to attack or easy to provoke. And secondly, indeed, the last war in 1962, India lost war with China, even if this is limited war. So because of this, view from China, China can be more bold. And thirdly, India is not a formal ally of the United States. So when we check, when the Chinese leaders decided to attack or decide to provoke, to persuade one country to leave from Quad, India is the easiest target. Raise the tension in the Indian border, in the China border, and ask India to leave from Quad. This is not beneficial for India because other three cannot help you. And but you share the border with China. We should be friends instead of enemy. In this case, China tried to raise the tension in the India-China border and try to intimidate India. Even if India, even if there is no certain or India will accept such kind of offer. Indeed, what happened in after the Galwan Valley incident in 2020, which is 20 Indian soldiers and 76 Indian soldiers, 20 Indian soldiers sacrificed their lives, and 76 other Indian soldiers injured by Chinese troops. That time, India is courageous country and strengthened cooperation with other Quad members. So China tried to intimidate India, but India's response is completely opposite. That's what happened. But despite this, sometimes country mistake because in the past when China intimidate Taiwan because of in the Taiwan elections, one of the candidates candidate is not China's favor, and China try to show the influence towards the election in Taiwan. That was happened in 1997, and but China failed. China's intimidation supports this candidate, China dislike, to win the election in Taiwan. So similar mistake could happen in the India-China border area. But because of this, because of such kind of situation, India do not wish to appeal the military aspect of the Quad in the Quad meeting. That's why in the joint statement, we cannot find military aspects of the Quad so much. But indeed, originally, idea of the Quad came from the military, came from the power balance between Quad versus China. That is the reason in the next Quad meeting, I think they talk about military cooperation, not only the economical security cooperation or the vaccine related cooperation or climate change cooperation. Along with this kind of cooperation, they also talk about military cooperation, I believe.
A strong political push for an economic decoupling from China has been a hot topic of political discourse in all the Quad countries, including the European Union and G7. How do you see the potential role of initiatives like Blue Dot Network and B3W in this process? Will the initiatives provide a viable alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative?
China's problem. What is China's problem? Indeed, China's problem is problem of money. Money. Why? Changing the military balances matter. Is this a problem of money? Yes, indeed. Because ample budget is the key to the rapid military modernization. The Belt and Road Initiative to buy the poor countries, recipients. China suggests infrastructure projects with high interest rate under the Belt and Road Initiative and create a huge budget and control these countries, these recipients. Why such kind of situation has happened? Because China has ample budget. So money is the key. In this case, money is the key. So what should Quad do? What should EU do? What should G7 do? Deal with money, deal with economic security is the answer. For example, when China suggests the infrastructure project with high interest rate, why these recipients accept such kind of high interest rate? Because there is no alternative infrastructure project. If Quad countries, if EU, if G7 suggest alternative projects, these recipients can choose which one is better. So this infrastructure project is deal with China's policy. And economical security, decoupling is needed. Why? Decoupling is, of course, decoupling today is impossible, but decoupling as a long-term process, decoupling is needed because to deal with China, we need to reduce China's income. China's ample budget is the key. How to reduce China's ample budget is the key. So, if the market of Japan depend on if the Japan's trade depend on the China's market, Japan cannot show the strong stance toward China because this trade is important. Without decoupling, any country cannot choose a strong stance against China. That is the reason decoupling is needed. And the decoupling reduced China's income to maintain balance, maintain military balance, maintain economical balance, maintain the power balance. Decoupling is needed, but decoupling is a long process. decoupling today is impossible. So one by one, this country talk and strengthen their supply chain. They create a new market like TPP was now new name, new version of the TPP was other economic circle was how to develop the rare earth in the other country because China took China's share is very big in the rare earth supply chain. So this kind of issue is needed. But one by one, we need to do as a long-term process. And it will work if we coordinate well.
Thank you. Dr. Nagao, thank
Thank you.
you for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.